have been proven, but it cannot be proven, and creationism stands as a bare fact in front of our eyes. So as far as scientific research is concerned, I of course support the idea that all kinds of scientific research should be encouraged and supported. When you look at the Quran, for example, it encourages scientific research in all areas, because the Quran and the religion of Islam knows that science is for the goodness of humanity. In a similar manner, the Bible and the Old Testament alike encourage all pursuits of science, and all these main religious textbooks give us the idea that scientific men need to be supported and protected. On the other hand, if science is being used for ends like fascism, Darwinism and terrorism or Satanism, that would be something very insincere, and we need to be very careful and wary of this possibility and not to use science for evil ends.
Mm-hmm. And in your view of science through a creationist lens, there are all these points of divine action. There's divine creation of the human race, of animals, as well as in places you talk about angels and djin and other sorts of supernatural or elements of the world, whether natural or not, that aren't discussed in science. Do you think that science can speak to these forces and somehow thereby increase our understanding of God and of the supernatural world?
It is very difficult to get in contact with angels, but it is highly possible for someone to go into contact with genies, and it is scientifically possible to detect their existence and to prove their existence. So it is a very good idea that we might have a scientific branch which specifically deals with the existence of such supernatural beings.
And do you think that it would be possible to prove the existence of God and the existence of such beings purely through science, without revelation, without Quran, without Scripture?
The existence of God is a very important issue, and it can be proven through a very simple example. For example, we all know that the inside of our brains is completely dark, and we have in our brains three-dimensional, very bright images being produced. I see in this room objects like television, radio, and different kinds of boxes and pens, which are in themselves very technical, very detailed objects, which have been produced in a very superior and detailed manner. So it is very evident that all these objects have been created by God Himself. So, as far as our normal intellects are concerned, no other alternative about the existence and creation of these objects is possible. And we cannot ignore the fact that they have all been created by God. For example, at the moment I am seeing you and you are seeing me. I see your jacket and you see my jacket. I see this glass which is in front of me, and I see your glass which stands in front of you. We hear voices and sounds in this room, and it is as if those images and sounds which are produced in our brains, it is as if they are really coming from far away. You think that I am sitting in front of you and we have a distance between you and me. This is actually the case. But the thing you are communicating with in your brain is not actual me. The thing you are communicating with in your brain is my image. So once people are aware of this fact, they feel and they get really surprised, because Yes, as a matter and as an object, I am sitting in front of you. But what you are seeing is not my true self, it's not my true body. What you are seeing is the image in your brain. So there must be some kind of a force which forms a kind of relation between that image and my true body. So the only explanation of this is a godly intervention, and it is only God who can create this relationship between our brains and the outer world. I see no other alternative to explain this thing. If there had been another alternative, God would furnish us with that just to test us, but that He has not presented us with a second alternative. So it is very normal for us to think about these issues as godly intervention and godly creation. I see, for example, the watch on my wrist. I see this file which is next to me, and once I open that file, I see written words and documents in that file. So all this shows that a kind of force directs all these things, and this is a complete evidence of God's creation.
That's interesting. You talk about God offering a choice, which He doesn't in that case, to test us. And you've also talked about evolution in terms of demonic work. Is that a distinction? Is evolution something God somehow allowed people's minds to imagine in order to test us, or is it a totally demonic force in your view, or which?
Yes, of course. God created Darwinism to test human beings, and thousands of people were trapped in this godly test, and they failed in this test. Even a child would not believe in the dictates of Darwinism as long as he becomes very careful and he uses his or her intellect. On the other hand, for the last 150 years, human beings have gone through this big test of God, and many of them have lost this test. On the other hand, the only thing they were expected to do was to use their intellects, to use their reasons, and to use their consciences. So that these were the only possible ways of preventing their falling into this trap. God, in a way, used Satan to have this trap for people, and He used Satan to impose this trap and send this trap to the world. On the other hand, the trap of Darwinism is now being completely brought down, and it is no longer instigating its power upon humanity, and until the end of times, until doomsday, we will not be witnessing the negative effects of this trap of Darwinism, and it's a great possibility that new kinds of traps will be presented to the earth and to human beings, of course with the wish of God.
And I was glad that you brought up your ideas on mind and matter, which have interested me. My own research is in both evolution and in neuroscience. And also I was glad to see the fuller discussion in Volume 3 of the Atlas of Creation. I wonder if you could answer the same question I asked earlier about evolution. When did these questions about mind and matter dawn on you in their importance, and how well have they been received? And what part do they play in the overall work of combating Darwinism?
When I was a high school student, I was thinking on the issue of matter, and in those years I already knew that matter as we know it does not exist. because it is only images that we see in our brains, and it is only through images that we perceive the outer world and all the objects around us. So that brings us to a point when we need to confirm the fact that the universe, in fact, is an image only. It is almost a mirage. For example, at those years when I entered my house, I became aware of the astounding fact that the house was not outside me, but it was inside me. That this was a very surprising revelation, because it made me aware, even more aware, of the fact that the interrelationship of me, which I was forming with the outer world, was only through images. Yes, matter did exist